So while the Trump administration is dealing with the fallout surrounding the controversial killing of Qasem Soleimani, the Washington Post is also reporting that this is not the only Iran military leader that they targeted on that same day. On that day that he was taken out, of course, our military attempted to kill Abdul Reza Shalai, who of course is a financier and key commander of Iran's Quds force. So he's been active in Yemen, but although that the attack in Yemen didn't result in his death, it's unclear why the operation did not succeed. Of course, the State Department and the White House declined to comment on the situation, and potentially the reason why they declined to comment on it is because we began to get this look that there was potentially another reason why they targeted both of these men at the same time. One reason, it shows that their push for it being this imminent attack seems lesser. It seemed more like they were trying to a broader stop to the mission to disrupt the leadership of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So in looking more of that, officials at the Pentagon and in Florida were monitoring both of the strikes, and they discussed announcing them together had they gone well. So this is why we didn't hear about that one, because this one did not go well. One of them said if we had killed him, we'd be bragging about it the same night. So this is a senior US official, and others that spoke on the condition of anonymity, and they discussed this classified information. Also going on, the State Department offered a $15 million reward last month for information leading to Shalai and the disruption of the IRGC's financial mechanisms. So this announcement said that he was based in Yemen and has a long history of involvement in attacks targeting the US and our allies. And lastly, Commander Rebarich, the Pentagon spokeswoman, said that the Defense Department does not discuss, quote, alleged operations in the Middle East. They said, we've seen the report of a January 2nd airstrike in Yemen, which is long understood as a safe space for terrorists and other adversaries of the United States. She said this, of course, in a statement. So as the news breaks, we're kind of not sure what this means or then what it could have meant if they were successful with this one.
Yeah, so two things about this. One is, so the guy's in Yemen, and yes, he could make plans in other places while being in Yemen. But if they're talking about, oh, well, they're attacking our beloved Saudi allies in Yemen, but the Saudis are attacking the Iranian allies. So do the Iranians then get to kill the top Saudi generals? Or the top American generals, because we're helping the Saudis? Because this isn't my logic, this is the Trump administration logic. So if because of that proxy war, if we get to kill the Iranian generals, then they would get to say, well, we get to kill your generals. And in this case, this is a finance guy. So does that mean, according to Trump logic, the Iranians would have a right to kill our Treasury Secretary? And so now, of course, they say, no. Our rules only apply to us, they don't apply to them. We get to kill them, they don't get to kill us. It's not really how conflict works. I know that's the way we'd like it to work. And I don't want anybody getting killed on our end, on our side. But that's why we shouldn't go around targeting random Iranian leaders, because there might be blowback. And let's also note they didn't get him. So that's sometimes what happens when you make plans that are hasty and you don't check with all the different layers, which is what they didn't do in both of these cases. In Soleimani's case, they happened to get him. In this guy's case, they didn't.
And if he didn't really hate us, he does now. And so that is the problem that we deal with when it comes to this. My question is, because I never pretend to know what I don't know. I just go back to this line of questioning. Is this happening because it really is about the best interest of the American people, our soldiers, and the well-being of the United States? Or is this happening for another reason? And that's the reason that these are the excuses that they're using. Because every time I read something, it sounds off, right? But you're killing a finance guy, and it's okay for us to kill the people, the poor people of Yemen. But anyway, all of this is going on. But we are defending or allied with people who are inflicting so much harm, damage, death in the Middle East, and we're just partnering with them because it's beneficial to us economically?
Yeah, as usual, you said a number of really great things in there. So first on, could it be another reason? Well, I mean, today, the Wall Street Journal, a conservative publication owned by Rupert Murdoch, had an article that said Trump didn't want to get impeached. And so in order to appease Republican senators, he killed Soleimani. So they, would have less reason to impeach him, having nothing to do with what he's being impeached about. But the Republican warmongers in the Senate are bloodthirsty, and they wanted a war and they wanted death. So they're like, if you give us war or the potential for war, and you give us death and bombings, we'll make sure you don't get impeached. And so that's not us reporting, that's the Wall Street Journal, an ally of the Trump administration for all intents and purposes. Certainly Murdoch is an ally of the Trump administration reporting that. So you're not wrong, you're right, okay, Ida. But the first thing that I said is even more important. If he didn't hate us before, he certainly hates us now. But it's not just about him. Think about it, if you're in Iran's cabinet, right, whatever their version of their cabinet is, you've got the Ayatollah, of course, but you also have the leader of their political class, Rouhani, and then you've got the other generals in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So they say, well, look, they weren't just trying to kill one guy, they were targeting a number of us. So the very first question that would go through your mind is, who else? Okay, now wait a minute. If it was just Soleimani and we thought the rest of us are safe, maybe we'll let it go and we don't go to war and we don't kill people. But if it turns out none of us are safe and they could pick us off one by one by one, well, then I got no incentive not to go to war. So, that's the wrong message to send. And of course, as usual, the Trump administration doesn't think any of this through.
It makes me wonder what the line of defense would have been, because we've been pushing the whole imminent attack, even though it makes no sense. And then even Mike Pompeo this morning, and then last night, Trump, and he also said, hey, the imminent attack, we don't know where, when, or how, but it was imminent. Not the definition of imminent, but so if they'd have pulled off both of these, it was supposed to be this everyone's supposed to get behind them on this now. So it's supposed to be two bad guys, terrorists that we take out. And Trump was expecting for that to be a thing. In fact, he was disappointed with Matt Gaetz and other folks that came forward. Some Republicans came forward and voted for them to limit his war powers. So he's thinking, man, I'm supposed to shoot people and drop bombs on bad guys, and then everybody's supposed to just support me blindly on this. This was gonna go past just impeachment, bloodthirsty impeachment Republicans, but just the country in general. Remember Brian Williams, when he shot rockets before, he said, look at the beautiful bombs bursting in the air. That's what he was going off of. We've taught him a bad lesson. You can't teach kids bad lessons like this because then they'll continue to do it. You're supposed to pat him on, slap him on the hand and say, stop that, Donnie. But we didn't do that this time. So he's now surprised and angered and hurt over the situation. Now I wonder what the defense would have been if we got both of these guys. It'd have been, we're taking on terrorists. I think it was Hannity that said, this is a bigger target, maybe even Graham, one of them said, this is a bigger target than Osama bin Laden, because you have to continue to compare yourself to the previous president to say you're better than him. So he's like, I can take out two. Then everybody be all about me, because right now, this doesn't look good for impeachment. The things that came out about the emails are looking bad right now after they're holding up some of the articles. We need a positive news story, and it's only 50%. So they now have to hide the other 50%.
They're wagging the dog. But you're talking about children, and so when I think, I've gone to the Middle East, right? And when you think about the way people get radicalized, when you talk about like where we grew up, I grew up in the ghetto, right? And I grew up poor. And everything that I saw in the news was a demonization of my people and the people who look like me. But when you wanna understand ISIS, because we have to understand it if we wanna eradicate it, this is how you make the next generation of ISIS. This is how you create young people who hate us. No understanding of what is going on. They are being murdered, they are dying, or they're gonna die, and they're gonna hate, the hate is for us. They grow up with this hate in their hearts because they think we have hate in our hearts for them. When in reality, we just don't know what's going on. The hate ain't coming from us. I mean, because if these people were just shooting at each other, if it was the politicians versus the politicians, then we'd be all right. They'd be like, all right, you take one out, they take one of you out, we good. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is a lot of people in Michigan, a lot of people in Texas pack their kids off and just send them off to a war, and a lot of them are not gonna come back. And so this is how you radicalize people, how you contribute to it. And we can't have these conversations because the climate that we're in is so extreme. There's no gray area. People don't want to talk about the reality because when you do, it's offensive to somebody. This is how we create terrorism And it's gross.
So I want to build off of both of what you said, because so the real problem in Yemen isn't some one random Iranian financier, okay? The real problem in Yemen is the massive, horrific war that our media totally ignores. So we say, oh my God, Soleimani might have killed folks 10 years ago during the Iraq insurgencies. By the way, so did the Saudis, but they're our friends, so we never killed them. But they killed thousands, or potentially hundreds and thousands of our troops in Iraq. But hey, slightly cheaper oils, so you want to kill thousands of our troops? Who cares? So let's keep it real on the hypocrisy of the Trump administration and the entire American government. But the real crime is in Yemen, where over 100,000 people have died in that war, started by, again, our ally, Saudi Arabia. 100%, no one disputes that. But it's worse than that, because the conditions are so dire that it has led to mass famine in Yemen. You know how many kids have died in Yemen through just starvation? About 85,000. Now remember when Assad allegedly did the chemical weapons attack and some kids died? All of the media showed the kids pictures and they were like, oh my God, we have to kill Syrians and we have to go and make sure we kill Assad and attack the whole country and do a whole war where everybody, in the defense industry and the oil industry gets rich and all that stuff. Oh, did I say that out loud? And then that's exactly what Jayar was referring to. And then when Trump did the bombing of Syria, Brian Williams said, oh, it's beautiful what we're doing. And because of the children, look at the 3 children dead. Now, chemical attack, horrific. The children dying, terrible. Now, what if the US media showed 85,000 dead children in Yemen? The outrage would be through the roof. Oh my God, we have to stop the goddamn Saudis from murdering those children or leading to their deaths. Oh no, but I forgot, the Saudis give us oil slightly cheaper than Iran does, so they can kill as many children as they like. That's the reality. It's a super uncomfortable reality. But meanwhile, we're going to kill the guys on the other side in Yemen who didn't start this war.